At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES.
Only on Super NES.
You're listening to the SNES broadcast with your host, Soul Blazer.
Hello, everybody. This is Super NES Podcast, episode number 170 this time. As always, I'm Greg, joined by Joe.
Hello.
How's it going, Joe?
It's going. It's
Yeah,
a blustery day.
Yes. So, just behind the scenes podcasting here. Joe and I both live in New England, so we were expecting the worst from Hurricane Tropical Storm Henry. But as of the time recording this, it looks like the storm is kind of verging off to the side, no longer going to be directly hitting us. That's good.
I actually have sunlight coming through my window right now. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's been a strange storm, like trying to plan for. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So, but anyway, so we were joined by another guest host today, who also is a New Englander. Surprise, surprise! Although he's in a different area, of the region, the other region than we are. So he's been in the podcast several times before in the past. We're very pleased to have Will back on the podcast again.
Yeah, great to be back, guys.
It's great
How's
to
it
have
going,
you.
Will?
It's going pretty good. It's dark sky out there, and
Yes.
yeah, made sure to get the AC
Yeah.
cranked up and got myself a little cool, and then shut it off for the show.
Yeah. Yeah, today's not going to be that bad for temperature at least. So it's like, at least we're going to lose power. It's not going to be that bad today, but tomorrow kicks in a heat wave. So, but I'm kind of glad the storm prediction's not as bad as they were originally saying. So, but and how appropriate is it that we're talking about tropical storm like playing tropical game for this podcast?
And we didn't even plan it.
No, we didn't. So anyway, so Will brought a game to the table for us to talk about again. And which game do you want to look at this time, Will?
So this time I brought Super Adventure Island.
Yes, this is a game I actually never played before, so which is strange because I really enjoyed the NES ones a lot, but I never got around to playing the Super NES ones. So, but Joe, what was your experience? Did you play the franchise? The franchise at all?
Oh my god! So, Adventure Island for the NES. All three of those games I had experience with and owned as a child/teenager, and well, I guess technically not. I mean, I was 13. It's borderline, whether you want to consider that a teenager or not. But anyways, I loved these games on the NES, and when you brought it across like what games we could play for this particular episode, I was immediately like, oh, I've never played Super Adventure Island. I definitely want to play that. So I have some experience with the franchise. I even have experience with the Wonder Boy series on the Master System. So,
Yeah, I was wondering if
yeah.
you guys were going to mention if you were aware of the connection.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually was not. I was not aware of the connection. Like I was doing research on this game, so it is interesting. But yeah, so we'll get into it here in just a moment. So what about your history? Your history with the franchise, Will? Why do you want to talk about this game?
So my cousin had the original Adventure Island on the NES, and that was a game that we never got very far into it. And
for good reason.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Later on, I played Adventure Island 2 and 3, and loved those games. And then, no, I didn't have the Super Nintendo growing up, but my uncle had one. And I'm pretty sure I rented Super Adventure Island at some point. So, because of the amount of time I had to play it, I wasn't able to beat the game at the time. And couldn't hear anything about it either, because my aunt would always tell us, turn the sound down. So anything we played over at their house on this big TV was in silence. Or very, very low.
That's the worst of the kid. It's like, we have this great television set up to play something on, and you can't take advantage of it.
Oh yeah, it's
So
like,
true.
yeah, we just had to be careful. Like, could turn it up a little bit, but if we had it up too loud, turn the sound down.
Yeah, But yeah, so definitely. So yeah, Super Adventure Island is part of a major, well, fairly major franchise. Like called like Adventure Island, like here in the West, which is Will just mentioned, like an adaptation of the arcade game Wonder Boy, which went on to spawn its own series of games, the Wonder Boy series, like for Sega systems. So Joe mentioned earlier, Joe mentioned earlier that he has experience like those games. So,
And I think it's Hudson Soft's second most popular series behind Bomberman.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep, I definitely believe that. Yeah, so this game was produced by Hudson Soft, as Will just mentioned. We have covered Hudson Soft before in the past, so I won't spend too much time on them. They were around from 1973 to 2012. So Bomberman, Adventure Island. They also developed the Bonk games.
Bonk, yeah.
Yep. And they also developed, and they also worked with Nintendo to help develop some of their games as well too. Such as some of the early Mario Party games. So.
And I never
Hudson
played
Soft-
those ones. That's one series
Yeah.
I didn't get into was the Mario Party.
Mario Party's great.
Oh, I know it is.
like,
I know a lot of people love it. I just never got into it.
Yeah, but the roster of characters these days is kind of getting ridiculous. But, but hey, it's all cool. So so Hudson Soft ceased to exist in 2012. They merged with Konami. So. So Konami has all the rights to their games catalogs these days. That's why when the TurboGrafx Mini came out last year, Konami was the one who actually released it, because they're the ones who have the rights to their hardware and software these days. So, the game was developed by a company called Produce, which is also a company we covered before in the past. They developed Seven Saga. That's probably the game they're best known for. So, one of the infamously hard RPGs to the system. So, they also developed Brain Lord, which is another game that we've covered here in the podcast in the past, like an RPG. So, they also developed a lot of the Super Bomberman games to the system as well too. So, and they're no longer around either. They also they were around from 1990 until 2015. So, Super Adventure Island. I'm going to try the Japanese name here. I may butcher it, but I'll give it a shot. In Japan, the game is known as Takeshi Mijin no Dakibojima, which translates roughly as Master Takeshima's Great Adventure Island. So, fairly accurate translation at least. So, like for the U.S. version of the game. So, came out in 1992 for worldwide. First Japan, then North America, slightly later on PAL. So, Joe, you kind of comically said before the podcast what the actual plot of the game was, pretty easily. Do you mind regaling the listeners like that again, please?
Yeah, so you play as Master Higgins, who goes on an adventure to rescue his girlfriend, who is turned into stone. I'm not good with the character names, but yeah, they're basically the little if you want to cut it up. Cutscene that they show is this little wizard guy basically comes down and turns his girlfriend into stone, which I don't understand because they're cuddling. He's got his arm around her when she turns to stone. Shouldn't that have turned him into stone as well? I mean, plot holes.
It never works that way in fiction.
Yeah.
Never works that way.
And it lists the wizard as Dark Cloak.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a video game name.
Yeah, so you play a Master Higgins, who's the same character like the NES games. A girlfriend is supposed to be called Tina, although a lot of the English materials call her Genie Jungle for some reason. So I don't know why. Translation difficulties, perhaps, but in any event,
Maybe they were thinking of Jill of the Jungle, the old PC game.
Could be, yeah, that's a good point. So anyway, Will, you have the most familiarity and knowledge of this game than any of us here. So why don't you tell us basically how the game plays, and how it works?
So you get there's 5 levels with 3 stages each, with the 3rd stage ending in a final boss. And each area is pretty much they kind of kept it kind of varied with the different areas, so you're not really going through the same looking area twice. There's a couple that are a little similar, but for the most part, it's a wide variety of areas you go through.
Yep. So yeah. So it's So the game is pretty basic platformer fare. Anybody who's played any of the Adventure Islands games before, either like NES or Game Boy, is going to feel right at home with this because the game really just looks like a carbon copy of those games. But as a matter of fact, I think the best way to describe this game like it's literally Adventure Island from the NES, just like remade for Super NES quality.
Yeah, so, I had to go look to see if it was actually supposed to be a remaster of the original game, and I don't believe it is.
No, it's not, but it sure looks like it.
Yeah, that's what I first thought. I'm like, are they expanding on the original game? And no, they weren't.
No. Yeah. So I mean, this is an early Super NES game. I mean, like January 92 for Japan, so like April for North America. So it's like, they can be forgiven just for saying like, hey, this franchise is doing well for us. Let's make a new game for it. So and it's crunch time scale, limited experience of the system, blah blah blah. There's numerous reasons for that, I think. But there is a sequel to this game, which we'll talk about later on. But because they did try out the sequel too as well, because I was curious about the game, and that one's. That game's very different. So, but yeah. So, you basically just navigate through Higgins through a wide variety of landscapes, as Will mentioned already. Like there's there's a jungle stage, there's a volcano stage, there's an ice stage. Why there's an ice stage? Tropical area, Lord only knows, but there's one.
And I wrote down what each area was too. Yeah.
But yeah. So. It's you have a health gauge. You also have lives, and you can earn lives by certain. You can earn lives by doing two different things. They hitting point plateaus, arcade games, or every now and then there's also like a bonus zone you can access. A certain item will send you up to the bonus zone, and if you're able to successfully collect the items on hopping around platforms, you can pick up one up that way.
Now, how many of those did you guys discover as you went through the game?
Only one.
Only one?
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I found 3 of them, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's definitely good then. Yeah, they're not easy to find. So there's also like fruit that you can find every now and then. Both to gain points, and also be able to get hit points back because. For some reason, you lose hit points as you play through the game, and I hate games like that. It's like, I think it's supposed
to be more of a timer, because this game has the one-hit deaths.
Oh yeah, that's true too, I guess. But it's like, but it doesn't look like it. Yeah. Technically, you're right, but I always thought of it. I thought of it as being like hit point gauge because it's if you have a timer, just have a timer.
Yeah, because it does look a lot like a hit gauge.
Yeah, I was gonna say
for every other game that we see that has the segmented pieces, that's usually your life. But no, it's as far as I know, unless they planned that originally in the original games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was pretty sure this was like one hit, one kill, which is annoying because there's no checkpoints either, and that really drove me nuts.
Yeah, unless you're riding on the skateboards.
Right.
Yeah. But so skateboard is here in this game. Your weapons, the weapons you have in this game are pretty basic. You either have like a stone axe, which is the stone axe, and a boomerang, both of which from like previous games. Right. The axe can only be tossed left and right. The boomerang, however, can be shot in 4 directions, which is very handy. So being able to shoot like either straight up or straight down is like a lifesaver, like in many areas.
Yeah. And they can both be upgraded as well.
Yep, you can get. You're able to eventually be able to shoot 3 of them at one time. Mm-hmm. So.
And then it goes to the fireballs.
The fireballs,
yeah.
Yep. So exactly. So, but So, there's also hidden items every now and then. You can also find certain like fruit and vegetables by jumping certain areas too. So, and Higgins also has double jump that you can also use to help get past like certain areas. So, and side note, I think it's comical the double jump animation because it's like he's leaping to the air with like fist extended, I'm gonna kill you.
He's given a Shoryuken.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great.
But I was testing
So-
it out, and if you're standing still and jump, you have a small jump. But if you're moving, like the more you're moving, the higher your jump is. And I didn't test it, but I think when you're moving at your fastest speed, your jump is about almost as high as that double jump.
Also,
Yeah, kinda reminds me like-
I was going to say, you can also crouch and charge a jump to jump higher as well.
Yes, I think
That's
that's
true. Yes. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, I was gonna say the jump mechanics in this game actually reminded me about about how jumping works like some Mario games.
Yeah.
as a matter of
I was
fact.
thinking that too.
So-
Mario 2.
Yeah. But so, yeah. So anyway, there are boss fights, as Will mentioned, like the enemy stage. You don't know how much damage you're doing to them because there's no hit point gauges on those guys. You just on those guys, you just have to just like find a weak point, dodge, and shoot. So
And they go down
after a
pretty
while-
quick. It's I'm actually surprised at how quick they go down.
The final boss of this game is actually kind of a pleasant surprise because again, like speaking about Mario, after you beat like Dark Cloak, there's like one last hidden enemy that shows up, and at first you're like, well, okay, I can't hurt this guy, but how do I defeat him? So you just have to dodge for a while. Eventually his weight when he comes down for the jumps breaks the bridge that they're standing on, and he plunges into the lava to his death. So again, kind of like Bowser, like Super Mario World. So another like Mario inspiration it seems like. So I do like that at the end though. It's kind of like a neat gimmick.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that boss in the game, and I first tried attacking it because the boss of the fourth stage, I almost couldn't hit him, and then I realized what I was doing wrong.
Yeah. The hardest parts about the boss is finding how to do damage and trying to avoid their shots because because some of them do put up a lot of flak at you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the snake boss was interesting. I thought that's actually the boss, but I enjoyed the most. For once because of how different it was.
That reminded me a lot of the snake from Battletoads.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking of, like,
because most people don't get to
speaking of,
that.
exactly. But yeah, speaking of like hard games.
Oh, yeah.
This is a hard game. I don't know if it's I don't really know if it's more difficult than the NES games.
Well, you do have
maybe not quite that.
you
bad,
do have
but-
limited continues.
True, you do. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I found the difficulty to be that of like the NES games, and I mean, I beat it in like 35, 40 minutes, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah,
fairly
you did pretty
short
good.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did pretty good then, Joe, because the average time of a playthrough on YouTube is about 25 minutes. So, I'm surprised about that. Like, you know what to do with this game is like very, very short. So it's like there's some things in the game that has very limited replay value. It's like they want to make the game difficult on purpose because they realize that you're gonna play the game for a while until you eventually beat it. Then you're like, well, okay, the challenge is gone. So, but and it's easy to forget how expensive games were back then. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, they're about what the cost of games are right now. But
Right.
but adjusted for inflation, you were spending more of your income on a game back
exactly.
then.
Yeah. I'm not I think I paid. I think when I got Zelda 3 when it first came out, I paid like $65 for that. So, but it definitely wasn't like a cheap game.
Yeah.
So, and Final Fantasy 4 to this day is still the game I've spent the most money on buying brand new. That was $70.
I bought plenty of special editions of games over the years. But if you're talking standard, like the standard edition of something, yeah, I think the most I paid is $70.
Well, Joe, speaking about Genesis again, I clearly remember seeing Phantasy Star 4 in stores when it first came out for like $80.
Yeah. And thank God I wasn't into those games at the time. Because I would have never gotten it anyways. My parents most certainly, not even for a birthday or Christmas, or even Hanukkah, I would not have gotten that. Nope, no
At
way.
least in RPG, you feel like you're getting the money's worth.
Right.
The money's worth. Those games at least, but this game was perfect. I think. Will, did you say earlier? Yeah, you said earlier this was a rental for you. I think
Yeah.
it's a perfect rental game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
it's
is a
short
perfect
enough
weekend
that
rental.
yeah.
Yeah, but
I was just
Yeah,
checking.
so,
I was just checking prices real quick. As mentioning Fantasy Star, I own a complete in-box copy of the original for the Master System.
Oh wow.
ooh,
Complete in-box is $174.
yes,
Yeah.
those are those definitely worth some money these days. So, yeah. This game is still like pretty affordable. We'll cover prices here at the end, but yeah. So Will mentioned the graphics already. The graphics in this game are serviceable. I mean, they're nice. They look very similar to the past Adventure Island games.
They're big and
not, like,
chunky,
super-
and they look very good.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this
I mean,
is
like, you
one
know-
of the plus sides to this game is that,
Yeah.
visually, it's beautiful. It's colorful
Yeah.
and vibrant, and I love, like, the animation for the bosses and whatnot.
Yeah, the animations like for like Higgins himself.
It makes it feel more epic than it actually
yeah,
is.
So, yeah. I mean, the graphics themselves are good. I think you have to remember this is a very early Super NES game, so you're not gonna see the like fancy graphics that later games have. But but the graphics are very like bright and colorful, and the game does look a lot like the past Adventure Island game.
Yeah.
So it's got that going.
Well, that's
for
why I
it.
think it's
So,
impressive, because it's such an early Super Nintendo game. You know what I mean?
I did see that. Yeah, I did see some. I did see some graphical glitches in this game, though. However, I'm not sure if you guys saw that too. But
I don't-
and to be fair, I don't know if this is due to the emulator or what.
I'm not
but-
sure. I didn't notice anything, but it might be the emulator I was using.
Yeah.
So I saw some flickering in some some areas. Certain enemies, when they're like too many of them in one line or whatever. There's some flickering. There also was one area in one of the boss fights. I think it was number 2, where we stand in just the right spot where we stand in just the right spot like the boss stage. Higgins' legs vanish. You don't see his legs anymore. So
Oh, geez, I don't even think I noticed that.
yeah. So, like I said, I really don't know if it's the emulator or not. It may be the emulator. So, but again, early game, inexperienced team. I can see glitches like that happening occasionally. So,
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, I noticed them, but they're not a big deal. But there was no slowdown with the gameplay or whatever. I mean, beyond the game itself being slow, man, this game was slow to play. It's like, I wish Higgins could move faster.
Yeah. Yep. Won't argue that.
I think that, yeah, and I don't remember the Adventure Island games being this slow. I've not played them for like many years, but I thought those were faster paced.
I mean, the first one is a little slow paced, but then and that's the other thing, I don't get either. Like the second Adventure Island game, they kind of changed. It's like the same gameplay, but they introduced like an inventory that you can have and everything else. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
Like they upgraded the game, but then when they came here to the Super Adventure Island, they didn't do any of those upgrades. They were just like, oh, here's literally an upgrade to the first Adventure Island.
At
for
least
the
not in
Nintendo.
this game. Super Adventure Island 2 does have some of those upgrades. We're talking about that.
Yeah.
Toward the end. So
Yeah, I definitely want
yeah.
to cover the sequel at some point because that looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I still gotta
this
play
is-
the sequel to it, because that's one that I haven't even tried.
Yeah, this is definitely I do not blame you one bit, Will, thinking this is a port, because this game does certainly smack like a port.
The one thing that told me
mean-
that it wasn't really a port was they didn't have the same bosses.
True. Yep. Yeah. So, but and the manual. The manual also does mention that Higgins has become a well-known adventurer by this point.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
Like it applies as a sequel to the games. So, but the music is very good in this game. Like the very
Yeah.
good
The
soundtrack.
music's very good. The music that really got me was the underwater music, because it kind of had, if you guys remember the Pure Moods commercial.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of Sadness from Enigma. Yeah. and then at one point it kind of sounds like 90s like the rap, kind of like what's the type I'm thinking of? Like the hip hop rap style.
Yeah.
It was very good music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Well-
going to say that was the second strong point I had for this game was the music.
So I actually just looked it up because I was curious, and no wonder the music's so good. This was composed by Yuko Koshiro, who also composed the Actraiser
there you go.
game
Yep.
soundtracks.
Oh, okay.
But so Streets of Rage, like Revenge of Shinobi, Dragon Slayer. Yeah, this guy scored numerous great games over the past. So that's yeah, that's why the soundtrack's so good.
The one ding I have on the music though was the boss battles could have had some more upbeat music. I didn't even know
Yeah, I
I
suppose
didn't even know I
that's
was
true,
coming
but-
to a boss when I
Right.
heard that music.
Yeah. So, but yeah. The soundtrack's also very fitting with the whole theme of the game. It's like really tropical sounding too.
Yes.
You have a lot drums and beats and whatnot. So, Yeah, very good soundtrack to this game. But you maybe listen to the music more than you're actually playing the game.
I went and listened to the soundtrack to it. It's on YouTube.
Yes. So, but yeah. So this game. Yes, this game did get re-released. This game did get re-released later on as part of the Wii Virtual Console system. So did not get released on any of the later Virtual Consoles, but it was available available on the Wii one at least. So
And it wasn't included on the Super Nintendo Classic. Yeah,
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
So-
it's one that could have. I think it's a solid solid addition if it was.
So I mentioned before the connection between this franchise, the Wonder Boy franchise. To make things even more confusing for anybody out there looking at this game, there is a later game also called Super Adventure Island that came out for phones in 2004 in Japan, and 2005 in North America. It's not this game. That game is a remake of Wonder Boy Monsterland.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
So just to mess you up like even further than you already are, but. So, yeah, I don't know why they did that, but whatever. So,
Quick little side note: did either one of you ever play Adventure Island in the beginning on the Wii? It was a WiiWare title.
I didn't play
I've
much
heard
of the
it, never
WiiWare
played
stuff.
it, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good game. Sorry, just showing how much I've actually played of this franchise.
Nope, that's fine. So, yeah, I did want to talk about the sequel just a little bit. So I agree with you, Joe, that we probably will have to cover this game as well later on. But I was curious about the games. I checked it out also for a while. Super Adventure Island 2 is much like the later. Just like 1 is similar to 1, 2 is similar to 2 and 3.
Oh, okay.
They brought back they brought back action adventure elements such as the inventory system that you mentioned earlier, Joe. So the game feels more like a complex platformer than because I like those reasons. So, but yeah, looks like a very good game. So I think, well, spoilers, but we're kind of getting toward the end of here anyway. I actually think I liked Adventure Island 2 better than this game. So, mostly just because Adventure Island is fine for what it is. If you enjoy platformers, if you enjoy the franchise, you'll have a lot of fun with this one. But it's difficult. It's slow. It's a very short game once you get used to it. So this is a weekend rental like I mentioned before, or just messing around with it like an hour or two, in emulator.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really just buy this game unless you're a collector, just because I think this game is not really that great in the grand scheme of things as far as the franchise goes.
Agreed.
Oh, for the price, I think it would be worth it.
Yes. So, how's your impression of this game changed at all playing it now, Will, compared to you as a kid?
I pretty much I enjoyed it as much as I did back then. I mean, it's certainly not a long game, and it's certainly not one that. I mean, it kind of shows off a bit with the Super Nintendo, especially the early Super Nintendo, what they could do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as the system went on, there was better and better things they could do with it. And I haven't played the second game yet. I'm sure that there's some stuff that reflects that later time in there.
Yes.
But for what it is, it's a great game to look at early days of the Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because this wasn't a launch game, but it was very close after that point. So, so Hudson Soft would get better as the system as time passed. So. But anyway, it's a fun game. It's fine for what it is. It's very cute. The soundtrack's definitely great. So, just I wish there were a few things that were different, but it's not a terrible game. It's just to me personally, just a meh platformer game. Just okay, it's fine. I played it. Let's move on.
I would have liked a better final boss, and more an actual health bar for the bosses.
Yeah.
And be able to fight the bosses for a lot longer.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. No, I agree with all that. So, but yeah. Anyway, so that's Super Adventure Island. So another one of those games that actually had that super naming scheme going on for the so popular system back in those days. So, I've never counted how many games that Super in the title. It had to be at least. Had to be at least a dozen. Yeah. So it was pretty common.
Yeah,
I was gonna look it up real quick, but I know, I look up Super on this app, and it's listing stuff that has Super even later on in the title.
I think I probably could take a quick look at it. So, while I'm doing that, like real quick, Joe, do you have like a final thoughts about the game?
I mean, my assessment of the game, and I have written down in my notes, is that it looks great, the music is great, but geez, like, let's be fair. Like, this is Adventure Island on the NES, just with bigger and more beautiful sprites, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just more of the same, and I understand the bosses are different, but it still feels the same, and that's, like I said, not a bad thing. I enjoyed this game. I would play it again, no problem, but I don't think I would invest in a cart. I think I'm perfectly fine with emulation on it.
Fair enough. So how about you? I will.
I think I would go pick up a cart because of the price, which I know we'll discuss a little later. But
Yes. Yep.
yeah, at its price, I'm more than willing to grab a copy to add to the collection.
Cool. But so giving this a quick look here, I'm seeing about like, oh god, at least probably around like 100 games came out of the system total.
Sounds about right.
In both Japan and North America, that is Super starting like their name. So,
Oh, no.
But yeah, it's a huge list. So I didn't even realize how big that was. So, but anyway, yeah. So there is a cheat code. You can do a stage select in this game if you want to. So title screen comes up second time. Person hold the O button, right and start to right X and start. So. So that's nice. At least allows you to be able to practice stages that maybe giving you a problem. So, but this game must have sold pretty well because it's pretty common on eBay, and you can have it for not that much price. So, 52 copies of the game currently listed on eBay. 72 copies of the game recently sold. These prices include shipping. Card only, ranging from $15 to $40 sold. So.
Yeah.
Fair,
On my app, it
like
lists
very
around
cheap
like
game.
$20. Yeah.
And CIB copies are a bit more expensive. It's still not that bad. Anywhere from $51 to $136. And CIB copies they range more wildly because it depends upon the condition of the box, like on materials. So it's like the lower end of the scale, you get everything, but it's beat up. Higher end of the scale is it's pristine mint, like you just bought it, kind of a condition.
Yeah, I'm seeing a list of a sealed copy of being around $254.
Oh, that must be new because I did not see that when I did my eBay searchings just several days ago. So cool.
Now, if you wanted Super Adventure Island 2, a cartridge alone is going to cost you around $110.
Yeah, that game's real.
Yeah.
Like I knew that. So, not many magazines covered this game back when it first came out. So, as a matter of fact, I could only find like 3 reviews on this game total. So it's so Brett Weiss, who's been on the podcast before in the past, he's the guy who did that very good Super NES Omnibus two-part book recently. He looked at the game recently a while back, and gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 stars. So he really liked it. He criticized the same things in the game that we did, but he still said in the end it's so enjoyable. So. By comparison, a magazine called Super Gamer bombed the game at 42%.
Oh,
so the average ratings here, the average ratings online sees this game, which includes both old-fashioned and contemporary ratings, about 73%. So
that's about average of I'd say that because. The way people are doing game reviews these days, anything below an 8.0 people think is absolute garbage.
Right.
But,
yeah.
but
Well,
I
Super
can find something even.
Yeah.
I think what was it? The Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red. GameSpot gave that like a 4.3 out of 5.
Yeah, GameSpot.
No, not 4.3 out of 5. No, 43 out of 100 is what it was.
Oh,
yeah, it's 43
okay.
I know it was a 4 and 3. And they just trashed on the game. And I love that game. It's fantastic.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
not only do
Yeah.
I love that game, but I just bought the Switch remake.
Yeah, it's a fantastic series, and
yeah.
people just trashed on it. It goes to show, like, even if a game gets a low score, you have to look at what people gave it a low score for in order to understand if you actually like it or not.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So, but so I never heard Super Gamer. They were a UK magazine back in the day. So, like maybe the British just have a different sense of platform games than we do. Well, I know they do because they're the ones who had all those Disney games and whatnot.
Right,
so,
that weren't good at all.
there are some Disney games that are pretty fun. I don't think the whole series is trash, but I don't think a Disney gamer came out in the system though, so we can't talk about it per
Right.
se.
They also had those side-scrolling Commodore 64 titles as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, which could be good depending upon who's developing it. Some of them pretty good. Like Contra on the MSX, for example, is very interesting. It's a very very different take on the game. So because you have because you have a hit gauge, and different weapons and that kind of stuff. So it's a very different game. So, but yeah, computer conversions are always interesting. But so. Looks like the last Adventure Island game to come out was the one that Will mentioned earlier, the WiiWare game, like Adventure Island: The Beginning. So, which was 2009 when that came out. So this is probably like a dead franchise at this point. Although there have been remakes of some of the games made more recent years, but Konami themselves no longer really making video games anymore either. So
Yeah, they're doing mobile games. So if anything, we'll see a mobile version of it.
Yeah. Don't forget the casinos. I mean, slot
Yeah.
machines.
Yep.
Well, Master Higgins also had a cameo in a GameCube and PlayStation 2 game back in 2003 called Dream Mix TV World Fighters.
Oh, I didn't find that.
Yeah.
I totally
so-
forgot about that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So are you aware of it?
I am.
You are. So it was basically a Super Smash Brothers style game that had characters from Hudson, Konami, and Takara. So
Okay.
you had Master Higgins, Bomberman, Simon Belmont, Solid Snake, Twinbee, Megatron, Optimus Prime, character from Beyblade, and Microman. It was quite an interesting series that never got released in the U.S.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me any. Yeah, so. But,
Yeah. I've
And there was a
actually been
character. There was a
looking-
character from Bloody Roar too, which was a 3D fighting game that hasn't had a new game in quite a while.
Yeah, almost 20 years now. I want to say.
didn't Takara make what was that monster fighting franchise? The name of it just flew right in my head. But
If you're
yeah.
thinking Darkstalkers, that's Capcom.
No.
Okay.
I was thinking about there's a monster franchise kind of similar to Godzilla, but it's like fighters, like a fighting game.
There was King of
series.
Monsters.
King of Monsters.
King of Monsters, yes. Yeah, who made King of Monsters?
That was I just found it. It says Takara Video Games. I'm looking on the wiki for it.
I thought so.
They
yeah.
developed and
Yep.
published
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
those ones. Also interesting to note, some of my recent pickups. They also invented the Battle Beasts,
Okay.
which were the small action figures from the late 80s, which are actually part of the Transformers line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Cool. But yeah. All right. Cool. Well, all right. Yeah. So that's Super Adventure Island. I know platform episodes tend to be a bit shorter, but I think we've pretty much covered this game pretty back and forth. Yeah. Nice game. Not a bad game, but I think it's simplistic in some ways. It has some faults, but at least it's a pretty solid game in the franchise. I think every Adventure Island game I played I actually have liked. Even the Game Boy ones are pretty good.
Yeah, I think the Game Boy ones were a translation of the second and third games on the NES.
That makes sense. Yeah. So, anyway, so speaking about Game Boy, we were talking with Will earlier before people were podcasting as to what Will was working on these days. What kind of current projects, stuff, etc. that you're working on either right now, Will, or that you're hoping to do in the in the near future?
Yeah, so I am trying to get a Game Boy podcast up and running. I just have to get my butt up to actually do it and try to get everything set up in terms of recording and trying to get good recordings done for it. But yeah, I've working on trying to figure all that out. And hopefully soon I will be coming back to a podcast that I've been doing for a couple years now, and that is the Move Over Kids podcast over at Move Over Kids on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with that podcast. What's it about?
So we discuss Nintendo-related news and different things like that. Sometimes we bring up some other companies as well. We even had a interview with Tommy Tellerico talking about the Amico.
Oh yes, that's become dumpster fire these days, hasn't it?
Yeah, people are trashing on it, and it's like, when it comes out, it comes out. You know, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on these days, especially with all the other companies. I was talking to somebody at work that said their landlord couldn't get parts for their washing machine for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
So you know,
yes,
parts for one washing machine, and
Yeah.
People are expecting a system to have like thousands of units ready to go with all these chips.
Yeah, see, that part of that I totally understand. I understand about the shortage, so that everything. So so that part, that part I'm totally fine with. The only thing, sidetracked real quick here, but it came up. The only thing that's giving the thing that's giving the most pause about the so the thing that's giving the most pause about the Miko is where are the games? They really haven't shown games like the system yet. So I know they're being worked on, but we haven't seen anything for a long time.
They've shown some. They just haven't shown a lot of them, but they have shown some.
Right. And the games they've shown, to be honest, have not really looked all that great.
Which is fair. Not everyone's going to be interested in the types of titles that they're doing, but they are going to be doing some classic stuff and bringing back, as far as I know, a lot of the stuff from the original Intellivision that they have the rights to.
Yep, I've heard that. Yep, I have heard that. So yeah, I'm curious to see what actually happens. What happens when the system comes out? I'll give it a. So I definitely. That's okay. So I definitely give it a fair shake.
She left the phone in the room.
No worries. That's what editing's for. We'll wait for the phone to stop.
It stopped.
Good. Okay. All right. Okay. So as everybody wants to reach you, Will, how can they do so?
These days it's mostly just on Facebook. I'm trying to keep kind of lower on actually having people contact me different places.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Joe, how can they? Joe, how can you be reached?
I have a very public Facebook, and also I can be found on Twitter at JOESUX30.
Awesome. Yep, as always, this podcast can be found either through our Facebook page, or you also can send me an email directly if you want to at the SNESpodcast@yahoo.com. We definitely would welcome any kind of feedback. I do have feedback here that I want to definitely get on the podcast, but we just need to find a pretty appropriate spot for it. So probably not when there's a guest host on. So please send in the feedback if you have any. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what games you are. We're going to dedicate a whole section to feedback coming up here pretty soon. So, but anyway, so as always, we appreciate you listening to the podcast. The March of the Guest Host continues next week. Next week. My next podcast, I probably should say instead. But we're looking at a very curious game next time. But it's another game I never heard of.
Yeah, I took a look at it when I saw the list, and I haven't played it yet, but I know of it. It looks really interesting.
Yeah, so Tim, who's been on the podcast in the past as well too, wants to look at a Japanese-only game, which is why I never heard of it, called Wonder Project J, which from the quick look I've given it, is a very curious game. So it's gonna be kind of fun to get into. So stay tuned next time for that episode. So as always, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Will, thank you again very much for taking time on your busy day.
Oh, no problem. Anytime you guys want me on, I'll come on.
Okay. Awesome. Well, sounds good. So, yeah, so stay safe, everybody. It looks like most of us here, at least in our areas, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, are going to be okay with the storm. But anybody in Connecticut or New York, I hope things are okay for you, like you guys, like the day goes on. So, be careful out there, everybody, and we'll catch you again soon next time. Later, all.
Bye.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man.
Now you're playing with power. Super power.